Millionaire pretends to be poor farmer to buy single mom's land when she invites him for dinner. Hello, viewer. Thanks for joining us. Leave a like and share your thoughts in the comments along with the city you're watching from. Now let's continue with the story. Robert Callahan sat in his luxury sedan, hands gripping the leather steering wheel, staring at the woman who would either save him or destroy him. Through the windshield 30 yards away, she moved between the apple trees with a grace that came from knowing every inch of ground beneath her feet. Dirt streaked her jeans, her brown hair, touched by the sun until it gleamed almost gold, escaped from a messy bun. She didn't know she was being watched. She didn't know that the man in the expensive car had come to take everything from her. His phone vibrated. Maxwell Sullivan, of course. "Robert, if you can't close this deal, I will." His uncle's voice carried the cold certainty of a man who had never failed at anything that mattered. "Monday morning, the papers go through, with or without your signature." Robert ended the call. His reflection stared back at him from the rearview mirror, 38 years old, dark hair graying at the temples, eyes that hadn't softened in longer than he could remember. His father's eyes. Thomas Callahan had died 5 years ago, but his voice still echoed in Robert's head. "You're too soft. You'll never make it in this business unless you learn to be ruthless." "Well, father," Robert thought, "watch me now." The apple blossom orchard. 7 acres of organic farmland that stood between Robert and the completion of the Callahan Resort project, his legacy, his proof that he was more than his father's disappointment. He had spent 3 years assembling the surrounding properties. This farm was the final piece, and Megan Turner, the 32-year-old widow who owned it, had refused every offer, every appeal, every veiled threat Maxwell had manufactured. So Robert had conceived a different approach. If he couldn't buy the land through negotiation, he would buy it through deception. He would become Bobby, a down-on-his-luck farmhand, someone harmless, someone she could trust. He would find her weakness, exploit it, and close the deal before she realized what had happened. It wasn't personal, it was strategy. The woman, Megan, bent to examine something in the soil. Even from this distance, Robert could see the strength in her arms, the kind of strength that came from genuine labor. His own hands, soft from years of signing contracts instead of working them, felt suddenly inadequate. He looked down at the expensive watch on his wrist, $42,000. He slipped it off, tucked it into the glove compartment alongside his wallet and car keys. From the passenger seat, he grabbed the worn duffel bag he had purchased that morning, the costume of a man who had nothing left to lose. 20 minutes later, Robert walked the final mile to the orchard on foot, his car hidden in a paid lot 3 blocks from the town square. The work boots he had bought pinched his feet, the flannel shirt felt foreign against his skin, but the discomfort was necessary. Transformation required sacrifice. As he approached the entrance to the orchard, a hand-painted sign swayed in the evening breeze. Apple Blossom Orchard, organic since 2020. The sun was setting, casting everything in amber light. Golden hour, they called it. The hour when the world looked most beautiful, most forgiving. Megan Turner stood at the end of a row of trees, a basket of apples balanced on her hip. When she saw him, she straightened, her posture shifting from relaxed to alert in an instant, protective, wary. "Can I help you?" Her voice was clear, direct, not unfriendly but not welcoming either. Robert, no, Bobby, cleared his throat. "I'm looking for work, Mom. Heard in town that you might need help with the harvest." She studied him with green eyes that seemed to see more than he wanted to reveal. "Who told you that?" "Man at the diner. Said the Turner farm was the best place around for honest work." He kept his voice humble, his shoulders slightly hunched, the posture of a man who had been beaten down by life but not broken. "I know it's late in the day, but I just got into town. Lost my last job over in Riverside County. Farm went under. I'm good with my hands, ma'am. I work hard. Do you have references?" The lie came easily, too easily. "No, ma'am. It was a small operation. Just me and the owner, and he passed last month. Heart attack. I've got nowhere else to go." Something flickered in her expression. Sympathy. Or simply the exhaustion of a woman who had no time to feel sorry for strangers. "What's your name?" "Bobby." He had practiced saying it. Bobby Martinez. A name generic enough to be forgettable, ethnic enough to suggest a background in agricultural work. "Bobby Martinez." "Well, Bobby Martinez, I don't hire people I don't know." She shifted the basket to her other hip. "But I'll make you a deal. There's a tractor over there that's been giving me trouble all week. If you can fix it before dark, I'll give you a week's trial, room and board, minimum wage. After that, we'll see." He followed her gaze to an ancient John Deere tractor, its green paint faded to almost grey. His heart sank. He knew as much about fixing tractors as he knew about performing surgery, which was nothing, but he had come too far to back out now. "Yes, ma'am. I'll do my best." "Megan," she said. "You can call me Megan." 20 minutes later, covered in grease and no closer to understanding what was wrong with the tractor, Robert heard light footsteps behind him. He turned to find a boy, 7, maybe 8 years old, with curly brown hair and a gap-toothed smile. The child held a telescope under one arm like a treasured possession. "You're not very good at fixing tractors," the boy observed. Robert wiped his hands on a rag, managed a sheepish smile. "No, I'm really not." "Are you going to tell my mom?" "Probably should. Shouldn't I?" The boy considered this. "My dad died when I was little. Mom says honest people are rare. She says if you find someone honest, you should hold on to them." He tilted his head, studying Robert with the unnerving directness of children. "Are you honest, Mr. Bobby?" The question landed like a punch to the stomach. Robert looked into those innocent eyes and felt something crack inside him, something he had thought was sealed away forever. "I'm trying to be," he heard himself say, which was the first honest thing he had said since arriving. The boy smiled. "Then I'll help you. My name's Adam. Come on. I know what's wrong with the tractor. It's the fuel line. Always is." Megan Turner finished loading the last crate of apples into her truck and straightened, pressing one hand to the small of her back, 32 years old, and some days she felt twice that. The farm demanded everything, her time, her strength, her hope. But it gave back, too. It had been her grandmother's gift, passed down through the women in their family. Land that meant something, land that held memories. She watched Bobby Martinez, if that was even his real name, following Adam back toward the house. There was something off about him. His hands were too soft. His confusion around the tractor had been genuine, the kind of incompetence that couldn't be faked, and yet he had admitted it, hadn't tried to bluster or lie his way through. That counted for something. Adam liked him. That counted for more. Since Daniel's death 6 years ago, God, had it really been that long, Adam had been cautious around men, protective of his mother, wary of anyone who might try to replace his father, but here he was now, chattering away to this stranger about constellations and galaxies, his telescope tucked under his arm like always. "Mom!" Adam called out. "We fixed it. Well, I fixed it." Bobby helped. Despite everything, the exhaustion, the constant worry, the loneliness she pretended didn't exist, Megan smiled. Her son could light up the darkest corners of her world. Bobby emerged from behind the tractor, wiping his hands. "Your boy is a genius, Ma'am. Megan, he diagnosed the problem in about 5 seconds. I just did what he told me." "He gets that from his father," Megan said softly. "Daniel could fix anything." An awkward silence settled between them. The kind that always came when she mentioned her late husband to strangers. Most people didn't know what to say. Most people changed the subject. But Bobby just nodded. He taught Adam well. Something in his voice, respect, maybe, or genuine sorrow for a man he had never met, made Megan reconsider her first impression. Maybe he was just what he claimed to be, a man down on his luck, looking for a second chance. Heaven knew she understood that feeling. "All right," she said, making a decision she hoped she wouldn't regret. "1 week, like I said, there's a room above Marcus Chen's barn. He's my business partner, lives just over that hill. I'll call him, let him know you're coming. Breakfast is at 6, work starts at 6:30. You'll help with the harvest, repairs, whatever needs doing. We clear?" "Yes, ma'am, crystal clear." "And Bobby?" She met his eyes, held them. Adam was right. Honest people are rare. "If I find out you've lied to me about anything at all, you're gone. No second chances. This farm, it's not just my livelihood. It's my son's future. I protect it." Understood. For just a moment, something flickered in his expression. Guilt, shame. But then it was gone, replaced by a humble nod. Understood. As she watched him walk away toward Marcus's place, Adam slipped his small hand into hers. "I like him, Mama. He seems sad, but nice. Like he's lost something and doesn't know how to find it again." Megan squeezed her son's hand. "Maybe we can help him find it, sweetheart." "Everyone deserves a second chance," Adam said, repeating the words she had told him 100 times. "Right, Mama. Right, baby. Everyone deserves a second chance." Even if, she thought as she watched Bobby's figure disappear over the hill, they haven't earned it yet. The room above Marcus Chen's barn was exactly what Robert had expected. Sparse, clean, functional. A narrow bed with sheets that smelled of lavender, a small desk, a window that looked out over the orchard, the trees dark silhouettes against the deepening twilight. Robert sat on the bed, pulled out his phone. 3 missed calls from Maxwell, a dozen emails from his executive assistant, each marked urgent. The corporation was a machine that never stopped, never rested. And he was its operator, whether he wanted to be or not. His father had built Callahan Developments from nothing. An empire of glass and steel, properties spanning 3 states, billions in assets. Thomas Callahan had been ruthless, brilliant, and utterly incapable of love. Even on his deathbed, he had looked at Robert with disappointment. "You're too soft," he had whispered, his voice already fading. "You'll ruin everything I built." Robert had spent the last 5 years trying to prove him wrong. Every acquisition, every expansion, every calculated risk, all of it designed to silence his father's ghost. And now this. The apple blossom orchard. 7 acres that should have been easy to acquire. But Megan Turner wasn't like the others. She didn't care about money. She cared about legacy, about family, about things Robert had stopped believing in so long ago he couldn't remember when the faith had died. His phone buzzed again. This time, he answered. "Where are you?" Maxwell's voice was sharp with irritation. "On site, gathering information." "Don't play games with me, Robert. We don't have time for your elaborate schemes. The board is getting nervous. If we don't close this deal, I'll close it." Robert kept his voice low. Through the thin walls, he could hear Marcus Chen moving around downstairs. "Give me 2 weeks. You have until Monday. After that, I'm filing eminent domain papers. We'll take it through the courts. That will destroy her." The words escaped before Robert could stop them. A pause. Then Maxwell's cold laugh. "That's rather the point, isn't it? She's standing in the way of progress. Sometimes, nephew, you have to be willing to break things to build something better." "Your father understood that. I wish you did." The call ended. Robert sat in the darkness, staring at his phone. Tomorrow, he would begin the real work, earning Megan's trust, finding her vulnerability, closing the deal. It was just business, nothing personal. But as he looked out the window at the orchard, at the lights in the farmhouse where Megan and Adam were probably settling in for the evening, he felt something he hadn't felt in years. Doubt. Morning arrived with birdsong and the smell of coffee drifting from somewhere below. Robert, Bobby, he reminded himself. He had to think of himself as Bobby now, dressed quickly in the work clothes he had bought. His feet still ached from yesterday's walk. His muscles, unaccustomed to physical labor, protested every movement. When he descended the barn's exterior stairs, he found Marcus Chen waiting at the bottom. 45, Asian American, with the weathered face of a man who spent his life outdoors. His dark eyes studied Robert with unconcealed suspicion. "Bobby Martinez," Marcus said. "Not a question, a challenge." "Yes, sir. Megan called last night. Said you'd be staying here for a trial week." Marcus crossed his arms. "I'm going to be clear with you. Megan is like family to me. She's been through more than you can imagine. And she's still standing, still fighting. If you do anything, and I mean anything, to hurt her or that boy, I will make your life very difficult. Are we clear?" Robert met his gaze. "Crystal clear, sir." "Good." Marcus's expression didn't soften. "Breakfast is in 5 minutes. Don't be late." The farmhouse kitchen was warm, filled with the scent of bacon and fresh bread. Adam sat at the table, swinging his legs, his telescope beside his plate. When he saw Robert, his face lit up. "Bobby, sit next to me. I want to tell you about Andromeda. Did you know it's the closest galaxy to ours? It's 2.53 million light-years away. That's so far that the light we see from it tonight actually left when humans were just learning to walk upright." Robert slid into the chair beside him, genuinely charmed despite himself. "That's amazing, Adam. How do you know so much about space?" "My dad taught me before he died." Adam's voice held no sadness, just simple acceptance. He said that even when people go away, they never really leave. They become part of the stars, watching over us. Do you believe that, Bobby? Robert felt his throat tighten. I think it's a beautiful thing to believe. Megan emerged from the kitchen, carrying plates. She had changed from yesterday's dirt-streaked jeans into clean work clothes, her hair pulled back more neatly. She looked tired, but there was something else in her expression now, a softening, perhaps, born from seeing this stranger being kind to her son. "Adam, let Bobby eat in peace," she said gently. "It's all right," Robert heard himself say. "I like hearing about the stars." They ate breakfast together, bacon, eggs, homemade bread that tasted nothing like anything Robert had bought in his previous life. Simple food, honest food. The kind that reminded him of a childhood he had almost forgotten before his mother died and his father had turned cold. After breakfast, Megan walked him out to the orchard. The morning sun painted everything gold. Dew still clung to the grass, sparkling like scattered diamonds. "I'll be honest with you, Bobby," she said as they walked between the trees. "I need the help. Desperately. But I'm cautious. Adam's father died in a car accident when our son was only 1 year old. Since then, it's just been us, me and Adam and my mother, Sarah, who helps when she can. We're a small operation. Everything goes back into the farm. There's no safety net." "I understand," Robert said, and surprisingly, he did. Or at least, he was beginning to. "These trees," Megan continued, touching the rough bark of the nearest apple tree with obvious affection. "My grandmother planted them 40 years ago. She taught me everything I know, how to read the soil, how to listen to what the land needs. She said farming isn't about taking from the earth, it's about partnership, give and take, respect." Robert found himself genuinely interested. "What happened to your grandmother?" "She passed 5 years ago. Left me the orchard in her will." Megan's smile was bittersweet. "My mother could have inherited it, but Grandma knew Sarah wasn't meant to be a farmer. She saw something in me, I guess. Or maybe she just knew I needed it more than anyone else." They spent the morning working side by side. Megan showed him how to judge ripeness by color and touch, how to twist the apple just right so it came away from the branch without damaging the tree. His hands, so clumsy at first, gradually began to learn the rhythm. By noon his shoulders ached, his back throbbed, his hands were cramping. But there was something satisfying about it, something he hadn't expected. The physicality of the work, the tangible results, the way Megan nodded approvingly when he finally got the technique right. "You're a quick learner," she said. "For someone who's supposedly done this before." He froze. Had she seen through him already? But she was smiling. "I'm teasing. First day is always rough. You're doing better than I expected, honestly." Relief flooded through him. "Thank you. Don't thank me yet. Wait until tomorrow, when every muscle in your body is screaming." She wiped her forehead with the back of her hand. "Let's break for lunch." They ate sandwiches under the shade of the largest apple tree, the one Megan called the grandmother tree, the first one her grandmother had planted. Adam joined them, having finished his homeschool lessons for the day, and immediately launched into more facts about astronomy. "Did you know that you're technically looking back in time when you look at stars?" Adam's eyes were wide with wonder. "Because light takes so long to travel, we're seeing them as they were millions of years ago. Some of those stars might not even exist anymore, but we're still seeing their light." Robert thought about that. About ghosts of things that had already died, their light still reaching across impossible distances to touch the present. Like his father. Like the man Robert used to be, before he had hardened himself into someone his father might finally respect. "That's profound, Adam," he said quietly. Megan watched the two of them with an expression Robert couldn't quite read. Gratitude, longing, perhaps a bit of both. After lunch, as they walked back to the orchard, she said, "Thank you for being patient with him. Most people get tired of the constant space facts. I like listening to him. He reminds me of someone I used to know, someone I used to be." The admission surprised him. He hadn't meant to say it. Megan glanced at him. "Who were you, Bobby? Before you lost your job, before you came here, who were you?" The question was simple. The answer was impossibly complicated. "Someone who forgot what mattered," he said finally. "Someone who spent so long building walls that he forgot there was supposed to be something inside them worth protecting." She was quiet for a moment. Then, "I think a lot of us feel that way sometimes. Like we've lost ourselves in the struggle to survive." They worked until sunset, harvesting apples, loading crates, preparing them for market. The work was endless, repetitive, exhausting. And yet, Robert found himself not wanting the day to end. That evening, alone in his room above the barn, Robert allowed himself to think about what he was doing, what he had become. The plan was simple. Earn Megan's trust over the next week. Learn about the farm's finances, its vulnerabilities. Find the leverage point that would make her willing to sell, then reveal his true identity, make an offer she couldn't refuse, and complete the deal. Maxwell had already laid the groundwork. The eminent domain papers were ready. The legal justification, economic development, job creation, tax revenue was airtight. If Megan didn't sell voluntarily, the courts would force the sale. Robert was giving her a choice. That made him merciful, didn't it? But as he lay in the narrow bed, staring at the ceiling, he couldn't shake the image of Adam's gap-toothed smile. The boy's innocent question, "Are you honest, Mr. Bobby?" He picked up his phone, scrolled through his emails. One from Maxwell. "Board meeting Thursday. They want an update. Don't disappoint me." Another from his executive assistant. "The architectural firm needs approval on the resort entrance designs. Please review attached and respond." He opened the attachment. Computer-rendered images of a massive resort complex, all glass and modern angles. Where the orchard stood now, the architects had placed a pool, a spa, luxury cabins. The apple blossom orchard would be erased, replaced by something that would generate millions in revenue and cement Robert's reputation as a visionary developer. It was everything he had worked for. Everything his father had trained him to achieve. So why did his chest feel tight? Why did the rendered images suddenly look cold, lifeless, wrong? Through the window, he could see the farmhouse lights. Megan moving past a window, probably getting Adam ready for bed, a simple domestic scene unremarkable to anyone else. But to Robert, who had lived in sterile luxury for so long he had forgotten what home felt like, it was mesmerizing. His phone buzzed. A text from Maxwell. "Remember why you're there. Don't get distracted." Robert typed back, "I know what I'm doing." But as he set the phone down and closed his eyes, he wondered if that was true, because for the first time in years, he wasn't sure he wanted to do what he had come here to do, and that terrified him more than any board meeting, any failed acquisition, any disappointed ghost ever could. Sunday morning arrived with church bells ringing from the town square. Robert woke to find a note slipped under his door. "Church at 10. You're welcome to join us if you'd like. Mc." He hadn't been to church in over a decade, not since his mother's funeral. His father had called religion a crutch for weak minds. Robert had agreed, or at least he had stopped arguing, but Megan had invited him. Refusing would seem suspicious. So he dressed in his cleanest work clothes and walked down to find her waiting by her truck, Adam already buckled in the back seat. "You came," she said, and there was genuine pleasure in her voice. "Figured I could use some redemption," he replied, trying to keep his tone light. She laughed. "Couldn't we all?" The church was small, white clapboard with a steeple that had seen better days. Inside, it was packed with what seemed to be half the town. People greeted Megan with warmth and familiarity. They looked at Robert with curiosity and caution. An elderly woman with silver-white hair and sharp, kind eyes approached them. "Megan, dear, and who is this handsome young man?" "Grace Hartley. This is Bobby Martinez. He's helping with the harvest." Grace took Robert's hand in both of hers. Her grip was surprisingly strong. "Welcome, Bobby. Any friend of Megan's is a friend of ours." She leaned in, studying his face with unnerving intensity. "You have kind eyes. Troubled, but kind. Don't see that combination often." Robert didn't know what to say to that. He settled for, "Thank you, ma'am." Throughout the service, Robert found himself unexpectedly moved. The hymns were simple but sincere. The pastor, a middle-aged woman with warm brown skin and a voice like honey, spoke about forgiveness, about second chances, about how we are all broken vessels, but that doesn't mean we can't still hold light. When she said, "Sometimes we have to lose ourselves to find who we were always meant to be," Robert felt as if she were speaking directly to him. After the service, people lingered, talking, sharing news. Megan introduced Robert to more faces than he could remember. Farmers, shop owners, teachers. Everyone seemed to know everyone else's business. It was the kind of tight-knit community Robert had always dismissed as provincial, backwards. But watching Megan move through the crowd, seeing how people genuinely cared for her, how they asked about Adam's schooling and the orchard's harvest with real interest, Robert began to understand something he had missed before. This wasn't just a farm he was trying to acquire. It was the heart of a community. Take it away, and something vital would die. Marcus Chen appeared at his elbow. "First time in church?" "That obvious. You look like a man who's never had to believe in anything he couldn't control." Marcus's voice wasn't unkind, just observant. "How's the work treating you?" "It's honest," Robert said carefully. "Hard, but honest. That's farming. Can't fake it. Can't manipulate it. You put in the work, treat the land right, and maybe you get something back." Marcus paused. "Megan told me you lost your last job, that you're looking for a fresh start." "Yes, sir. Word of advice, then. Whatever you're running from, make sure it's not yourself. That's the one thing you can never outrun." Before Robert could respond, Adam bounded over, his excitement palpable. "Bobby, Mrs. Hartley invited us for lunch at her house. She makes the best apple pie in the whole world. You have to come." Robert looked to Megan, who shrugged with a smile. "Grace Hartley doesn't take no for an answer. Consider yourself adopted." Grace's house was a cozy cottage filled with photographs and handmade quilts. Over lunch, fried chicken, mashed potatoes, green beans from her garden, and yes, the most incredible apple pie Robert had ever tasted. She regaled them with stories about the town's history, about how her own family had lived here for 4 generations. "This land has memory," Grace said, her eyes distant. "Every tree, every field, it remembers who loved it, who cared for it. That's why places like Megan's Orchard matter. They're not just property, they're sacred, in a way." Robert felt a weight settling in his chest. Each story, each connection, each display of genuine community made his mission harder to justify. After lunch, as they drove back to the farm, Adam fell asleep in the back seat. Megan glanced at Robert. "Thank you for coming today. I know it probably wasn't your thing." "Actually," Robert said truthfully, I enjoyed it. It's been a long time since I felt part of something like that." "Like what?" "Something real." The words came out before he could censor them. Megan was quiet for a moment. Then, "I'm glad you came here, Bobby. I think maybe we both needed, well, whatever this is." That evening, after returning to his room, Robert sat at the small desk and tried to write the report Maxwell was expecting. He opened his laptop, stared at the blank document. Subject: Apple Blossom Orchard Acquisition, Day 3, Progress Report. But he couldn't type anything. His fingers hovered over the keys, paralyzed. Instead, he found himself writing something else entirely, not a report, a confession. "I came here to destroy something beautiful because that's what I was trained to do. My father spent his entire life building an empire, but he never taught me how to build anything that mattered. He taught me how to acquire, how to leverage, how to win, but he never taught me how to be happy, how to be good, how to be enough. Today, I went to church. I met a woman named Grace who told me I have troubled eyes. A boy named Adam told me about stars that died millions of years ago, but whose light still reaches us. And Megan, Megan, she looks at me like I'm someone worth saving, and I don't know how to tell her that the only person I need saving from is myself." He deleted it, all of it, closed the laptop, lay back on the bed, staring at the ceiling. Tomorrow, he would continue the charade. He would earn more of Megan's trust. He would learn more about the farm's vulnerabilities. He would move his plan forward. But tonight, just for tonight, he let himself imagine what it would be like to actually be Bobby Martinez, to be someone simple, someone honest, someone worthy of the way Megan smiled at him when he did something right. Just for tonight, he let himself dream of a different ending than the one he knew was coming. Outside, the stars emerged one by one, ghosts of light from distant suns, still shining, even though their source had long since burned away. By Monday, Robert's entire body ached in ways he hadn't thought possible. Muscles he didn't know existed announced themselves with sharp, insistent pain. His hands, blistered from the first day's work, had begun to callous. He stared at them in the morning light, these hands that had signed multi-million-dollar contracts, that had never known genuine labor and barely recognized them. Marcus caught him flexing his fingers during breakfast. "Hurts, doesn't it? Real work always does, at first. But the pain means you're changing, becoming something different than what you were." Robert wondered if Marcus somehow knew the truth. The older man had a way of looking at him that felt uncomfortably perceptive, as if he could see beneath the Bobby Martinez costume to the Robert Callahan underneath. But if Marcus suspected anything, he kept it to himself. Instead, he put Robert to work on the harder tasks, hauling 100-pound crates, repairing fence posts, clearing brush. It was test, Robert realized. Marcus was seeing what he was made of, whether he would break or bend. Robert refused to break. By midweek, something unexpected began to happen. His body, punished and protesting at first, started to adapt. The work became less agonizing, more rhythmic. He began to understand the patterns of the orchard, the flow of each day: wake before dawn, work until the sun climbed high, break for lunch in the shade, work again until sunset painted everything gold, eat dinner, sleep, repeat. It was simple, honest, and for a man who had spent years buried in complexity and artifice, it felt like breathing clean air for the first time in a decade. Thursday afternoon, Megan found him in the far corner of the orchard, pruning branches with something approaching competence. "Marcus told me you're doing good work," she said, surprise evident in her voice. "He said you've got potential. That's high praise from him. He doesn't trust easily." Robert paused, wiping sweat from his forehead. "I'm trying. Probably still making 100 mistakes you're too polite to mention." She laughed, a sound that had become increasingly common around him, he noticed. The guardedness in her eyes had softened over the past few days. She was beginning to trust him, which meant his plan was working. So why did that thought make him feel sick? "I wanted to ask you something," Megan said, her tone turning more serious. "A local reporter called. She wants to do a story about the orchard, about organic farming. It could be good publicity for the farmers' market, but she'll want to take photos, interview everyone who works here. Would you be okay with that?" Panic flared in Robert's chest. Photos, his face in a newspaper. Maxwell would see it. The board would see it. His entire deception would unravel in an instant. He scrambled for a plausible excuse. "I'm not really comfortable with cameras, ma'am. Megan, bad experience with an ex-girlfriend who shared photos online without permission, made me kind of camera shy." It was a weak lie. He could see doubt flicker across her face. "I understand," she said slowly. "I'll tell her we'll do the interview, but no photos of you, if that works." "Thank you. I appreciate that." She studied him for a moment longer, and Robert held his breath, certain she was about to ask the questions he couldn't answer. But then Adam's voice called from the farmhouse, and the moment passed. "Mom! Grandma Sarah's here!" Megan's expression brightened immediately. "Come meet my mother. Fair warning. She's going to interrogate you. She's protective." Sarah Mitchell was 58, with silver-streaked hair and her daughter's green eyes. She shook Robert's hand with a firm grip, her gaze assessing him with the unnerving accuracy of a mother who had spent decades reading people's intentions. "So you're Bobby," she said. "Megan's told me about you. Says you're a hard worker, good with Adam." "I try, Mom. Sarah, please, and I'll be honest with you, Bobby, my daughter has been through more than any person should have to endure. She lost her husband when Adam was barely walking. She's built this farm from almost nothing, raised that boy alone and never once complained. She's strong, but even strong people have limits. You understand what I'm saying?" It was a warning, clear and direct. "Don't hurt my daughter, or you'll answer to me." "I understand," Robert said. And he did. More than she knew. That evening, after Sarah had left and Adam was in bed, Megan invited Robert to sit with her on the farmhouse porch. The air was cool, filled with the scent of apple blossoms. Somewhere in the distance, an owl called. "Tell me about yourself," Megan said. "The real stuff, not just the resume version." Robert's heart hammered. This was dangerous territory. "What do you want to know? Where are you from? What was your childhood like? What made you—" "I don't know. Who you are now?" He thought carefully about how to answer. The truth would destroy everything. But maybe he could give her pieces of the truth, fragments that wouldn't expose him but weren't complete lies either. "I grew up in California," he said slowly. "My mother died when I was young. Cancer. After that, it was just me and my father. He was a hard man, believed in strength above everything else. Taught me that emotions were weakness, that the world respected power and nothing else. All of this was true, just not complete. I spent my whole life trying to prove myself to him, trying to become what he wanted me to be, and then he died, and I realized I had become exactly like him, cold, focused on winning at any cost. And I hated it, hated who I'd become. Also true. The revelation surprised him. Megan was quiet, listening. When she spoke, her voice was soft. Is that why you're here? Running away from who you used to be? Maybe. Or maybe I'm trying to find who I should have been all along. She turned to look at him, moonlight catching in her eyes. I think you're a good man, Bobby. I think whatever mistakes you made in your past, you're trying to make things right. That takes courage. The words cut deeper than any accusation could have. She believed in him, believed in a version of him that didn't exist, and he was going to betray that belief. Megan, he almost confessed. Almost told her everything right there. But his phone vibrated in his pocket. A text from Maxwell. Update now. The moment broke. Megan stood, stretching. It's late. We should both get some sleep. Early morning tomorrow. Robert watched her go inside, then pulled out his phone. Maxwell had sent 3 more texts, each more demanding than the last. Board meeting Friday. Need confirmation you've made progress. Robert, answer me. If you've gone soft on me, I swear to God. Robert typed back, making progress. Subject is beginning to trust me. We'll have more details soon. He hit send before he could reconsider. This was his job, his mission. He couldn't let feelings, genuine, inconvenient feelings, derail years of planning. But as he walked back to his room above the barn, passing beneath the same stars Adam loved so much, he couldn't shake the feeling that he was making the worst mistake of his life, and that the truly terrible part was that he was going to keep making it, one deliberate step at a time, until everything beautiful around him turned to ash. Friday arrived with news that made Megan's face light up in a way Robert hadn't seen before. The Organic Certification Board had approved their application. The apple blossom orchard was now officially certified organic, which meant higher prices, better market access, and validation of everything Megan had worked toward. This is huge, Marcus said over celebratory coffee in the farmhouse kitchen. Huge! Do you know how many farms apply and get rejected? This puts us in the top tier. Adam, not fully understanding but picking up on his mother's excitement, danced around the kitchen. Does this mean we're rich, Mama? Megan laughed, pulling him into a hug. Not rich, sweetie, but it means the farm is secure. It means we're going to be okay. She met Robert's eyes over Adam's head, and the gratitude in her expression was almost unbearable. Thank you. I know you've only been here a week, but having the extra help made this possible. I couldn't have managed the harvest and the certification process alone. I'm glad I could help, Robert said, and meant it. That afternoon, as they worked together preparing for the weekend farmers' market, Megan asked him a question that stopped him cold. Bobby, would you like to come to dinner? A real dinner, I mean. Not just grabbing sandwiches between work. Friday night, at the house. His breath caught. This was it, the threshold moment. Accepting would mean crossing from employee to something more. It would mean deepening the deception, entangling himself further in lies he was beginning to wish weren't lies at all. He should say no, should make an excuse, should maintain distance. I'd like that very much, he heard himself say. Megan's smile was radiant. Good, it's settled then. Tomorrow night. 7 o'clock. The rest of the day passed in a blur. Robert couldn't focus on anything except the weight of what he had agreed to. That evening, alone in his room, he tried to think rationally about the situation. Dinner was an opportunity, a chance to see inside the farmhouse, to learn more about Megan's financial situation, to find the vulnerability he needed to complete his mission. It was strategic, calculated. So why did his hands shake when he thought about it? He called Maxwell, knowing he had to. His uncle answered on the first ring. Finally. Where the hell have you been? Working, building trust, like I said. The board meeting was today. They're getting impatient, Robert. They want to see results. I managed to buy you a little more time, but not much. Tell me you've made progress. She's invited me to dinner tomorrow night. A pause. Then Maxwell's cold approval. Good. That's good. She's letting you in. Find out what matters to her most. Family, security, her son's future. Everyone has a pressure point. Find hers. And if I can't, then I file the papers Monday morning and we take it through the courts. Either way, Robert, we get that land. I prefer you close this voluntarily. It's cleaner. But I'm not precious about methods. Maxwell's voice hardened. Don't disappoint me. And don't forget who you are. You're a Callahan. We don't let sentiment get in the way of success. The call ended. Robert sat in the darkness, his father's ghost and his uncle's expectations pressing down on him like physical weight. He pulled out his laptop, looked again at the architectural renderings of the resort, the glass towers, the luxury cabins, the pool where Megan's orchard currently stood. It was impressive, profitable, everything his father had taught him to value. But as he looked at it, all he could see was what would be erased to make it real. The grandmother tree, the rows of apple trees Megan tended with such care, the small farmhouse where Adam pointed his telescope at stars and dreamed of galaxies. He closed the laptop, lay back, stared at the ceiling. Tomorrow night he would go to dinner. He would sit at Megan's table, eat food grown from the land he intended to take from her, and smile while his heart broke into smaller and smaller pieces. Because that's what Robert Callahan did. He won, no matter the cost. Even if the cost was becoming the kind of man he had promised himself he would never be. Even if the cost was destroying the first real thing he had felt in years. Even if the cost was everything. Friday morning dawned clear and perfect, the kind of autumn day that made the whole world seem touched with magic. Robert woke early, nerves already fraying at the thought of the evening ahead. He told himself it was just dinner, nothing more, but he knew better. He spent the day working alongside Marcus, hauling crates for the farmers' market. Marcus was quieter than usual, watching Robert with an expression that might have been concern. "Are you all right?" Marcus finally asked as they loaded the last crate onto Megan's truck. "Fine. Why?" "You seem distracted, nervous, maybe." Marcus crossed his arms. "Megan told me she invited you to dinner." "She did. That means something to you." Robert met his gaze. "Should it? Megan doesn't invite people to her home lightly, especially not men. After Daniel died, she shut down that part of herself for a long time. If she's opening up to you, that's significant." Marcus stepped closer, his voice dropping. "I'm going to ask you one more time, Bobby. Are you who you say you are?" The question hung in the air between them. Robert had a choice. He could confess, right now, tell Marcus everything, take whatever consequences came, or he could lie again. "Yes," he said. "I'm exactly who I say I am." Marcus studied him for a long moment, then nodded slowly. "All right. I hope that's true, for everyone's sake." By evening, Robert's nerves were shredded. He showered in the barn's small bathroom, trying to scrub away the week's grime. He had only one clean shirt left, a simple blue button-down he had bought at a thrift store. It would have to be enough. He walked to the farmhouse as the sun set, the world bathed in gold and amber light. Through the kitchen window, he could see Megan moving around, cooking. Adam sat at the table, drawing something with fierce concentration. Robert almost turned around, almost walked away, but his feet carried him forward, up the porch steps, to the door. He knocked. Adam answered, his face breaking into a huge smile. "Bobby, you're here. Come in, come in. I drew you a picture." The farmhouse interior was warm, cozy in a way Robert's sleek penthouse had never been. Mismatched furniture, photographs covering every surface. Books stacked in corners, The comfortable chaos of a home that was actually lived in. Megan emerged from the kitchen, and Robert's breath caught. She had changed from her work clothes into a simple dress. Nothing fancy, just a blue cotton dress that made her eyes seem impossibly green. Her hair, usually pulled back, fell loose around her shoulders. "Hi," she said, suddenly shy. "You're right on time." "Hi," he managed. Adam pulled Robert to the table. "Look, I drew the whole solar system. See, this is Earth, and this is Mars, and this big one is Jupiter with the great red spot." Robert knelt beside the chair, genuinely admiring the drawing. Adam had put remarkable detail into each planet. "This is incredible, Adam. You're an artist." "Daddy used to draw planets too," Adam said. "Mama keeps his drawings in a special box. Sometimes we look at them together and remember." Megan's voice came from the kitchen, thick with emotion. "Dinner's almost ready, sweetheart. Why don't you show Bobby where to sit?" The table was set with care. China plates that looked old, valuable, not in monetary terms, but in history. Candles flickered in the center. Through the window behind the table, apple blossoms were visible in the fading light, delicate and perfect. They ate together. Chicken roasted with herbs from Megan's garden, vegetables she had grown herself, bread baked that afternoon. Simple food, but made with love and attention. Every bite tasted better than anything Robert had eaten in years. "This is wonderful," he said. "Really, I can't remember the last time I had a home-cooked meal." "You probably eat a lot of takeout living alone," Megan said. "I did too, after Daniel died. But then I realized Adam was watching me, learning from me. If I wanted him to understand that food is about more than just fuel, I had to show him, teach him that meals are sacred in a way, time to be together, to be grateful." Adam nodded seriously. "Mama says we say grace to remember that everything comes from somewhere. The chicken had a life. The vegetables grew from seeds. Nothing exists alone. Everything is connected." Robert felt something shift in his chest. That's a beautiful way to think about it. After dinner, Adam insisted on showing Bobby his telescope collection. The boy had 3, one from his father, one from his grandmother, and one he had saved up to buy himself. "This one," Adam said, pointing to the oldest telescope, "Daddy gave me for my 4th birthday. He said, even though he couldn't be with me anymore, I could always look at the stars and know he was there, watching." Robert knelt down to Adam's height. "Your dad sounds like he was a very wise man." "He was the best," Adam said simply. "But Mama says people who die don't really leave. They become part of everything, part of the light in the stars, part of the wind in the trees, part of the apples that grow every year." "Do you believe that, Bobby?" Robert thought about his own father. Thomas Callahan hadn't become part of anything beautiful when he died. He had just left a void and expectations and a son who would never measure up. "I think," Robert said carefully, "that the people we love never really leave us. They shape who we become, for better or worse." Megan appeared in the doorway. "Adam, it's time for bed, sweetheart." "But Mama, no buts." "You can show Bobby more constellations tomorrow." After Adam was tucked in, Megan led Robert out to the porch. The night air was cool, filled with the scent of apple blossoms. Stars scattered across the sky like diamonds thrown by a careless hand. They sat in comfortable silence for a while. Then Megan spoke, her voice soft. "I haven't done this in a long time. Had someone over for dinner. Let someone into our life, I guess. Why did you invite me, I mean?" She turned to look at him. "Because you're kind to my son. Because you work hard and don't complain. Because there's something about you that feels safe. Like you understand what it means to be lost and trying to find your way home." Robert's throat tightened. "Megan, I know it's only been a week," she continued. "I know it's probably too soon to feel this way. But I can't help it. You make me feel like maybe it's okay to hope again, to believe that good things are still possible." She was looking at him with such trust, such openness, that Robert felt his carefully constructed walls begin to crumble. He should stop this, should pull away, should maintain the distance that made betrayal possible. Instead, he found himself leaning closer. "Megan, there's something I need to tell you." She kissed him before he could finish. Soft, tentative, full of hope and fear in equal measure. For a moment, Robert froze. Then he kissed her back, and the world fell away. When they broke apart, Megan was smiling. "I've been wanting to do that all week." "So have I," Robert admitted, the truth of it surprising him. "Tell me tomorrow," she whispered. "Whatever you were going to say, tomorrow, tonight was perfect. Let's keep it perfect just a little longer." Robert nodded, unable to speak. They sat together under the stars, her hand in his, both of them pretending that tomorrow wouldn't come, that this moment could last forever. But it couldn't. As Robert walked back to the barn later, his phone buzzed. "Maxwell. Papers filed Monday morning if I don't hear from you by tomorrow. Last chance." Robert looked back at the farmhouse. The porch light was still on. Inside, Megan was probably cleaning up, replaying the evening in her mind, smiling to herself. He had come here to destroy her, to take everything she loved, and now, God help him, he was falling in love with her, which meant tomorrow he would have to choose between the mission that defined his entire adult life and the woman who had shown him what it meant to actually be alive, between his father's ghost and his own soul, between winning and being worthy of winning. The stars offered no answers. They just kept shining, indifferent to human suffering, beautiful and distant and impossibly far away. Saturday morning arrived too soon. Robert woke with the memory of Megan's kiss still burning on his lips, and the weight of Maxwell's deadline crushing his chest. He had 24 hours before his uncle filed the papers that would destroy everything Megan had built, 24 hours to decide who he really was. He dressed slowly, his hands trembling as he buttoned his shirt. Through the window, he could see the farmhouse, smoke rising from the chimney. Megan would be making breakfast. Adam would be at the table, probably drawing more planets, asking questions about the universe that Robert had no answers for. His phone buzzed, a text from Maxwell. "I assume your silence means you've made progress. Call me." Robert ignored it. He had nothing to report that Maxwell would want to hear, nothing except the truth, that he had fallen in love with the woman he was supposed to betray, and he had no idea how to undo the damage he had already set in motion. At breakfast, Adam was more animated than usual. "Bobby, guess what? Tommy Jenkins is having a treasure hunt today. Can I borrow your backpack, please? Mine has a broken strap, and Tommy said we need good backpacks for all the treasure." Robert's blood turned to ice. His backpack, where his wallet was hidden, his driver's license with his real name, his credit cards, the key fob to his luxury car. I don't think that's a good idea, Adam. My backpack is pretty worn out. Please." Adam's eyes were huge, pleading. "I promise I'll be super careful with it." Megan looked up from the stove. "Bobby, if you'd rather not, Adam can use one of mine." "No, it's fine." What else could he say? Refusing would seem suspicious. And the backpack was in his room, buried under clothes. Adam wouldn't go through it, would he? "Thank you." Adam threw his arms around Robert's waist. "You're the best." The best. Robert closed his eyes, hating himself. After breakfast, as Adam ran off to get ready for the treasure hunt, Megan touched Robert's arm. "Hey, you seem tense. Everything okay?" He wanted to tell her, wanted to confess everything, right there in the kitchen with the morning light streaming through the windows, but the words stuck in his throat. "Just tired," he managed. "Didn't sleep well." She smiled, a private smile that made his heart ache. "Me neither. Kept thinking about last night." "Megan! Mom!" Adam called from upstairs. "Where's Bobby's room? He said I could get the backpack." Robert moved before he could think. "I'll get it. Stay here, Adam." But he was too late. By the time he reached the barn, Adam had already climbed the stairs, already entered his room. Robert took the steps, two at a time, burst through the door, to find Adam holding the backpack, zipping it closed, completely oblivious. "Thanks, Bobby. I'll take super good care of it." He started to leave, then paused. "What's that?" He pointed to the small table by the bed, where Robert's wallet sat, knocked from the backpack's side pocket, lying open. Robert's driver's license visible, the name Robert Callahan in bold letters. Time stopped. Adam picked up the wallet, his face scrunched in confusion. "Bobby, why does this say Robert? Is this your wallet?" Robert's mouth opened. No sound came out. Adam's eyes widened as he read the license more carefully. "Robert James Callahan? That's not... Bobby, this isn't yours, is it? Did you find someone's wallet?" From downstairs, Megan's voice. "Adam, did you get the backpack?" "Mom," Adam called back, his voice bright with innocent excitement. "Bobby found someone's wallet. Come see." No. No, no, no. Robert heard Megan's footsteps on the stairs, heard her voice, closer now. "What?" "Bobby found..." She appeared in the doorway, saw Adam holding the wallet, saw Robert's face, bloodless and frozen, saw the driver's license with its damning truth. Everything happened very slowly after that. Megan crossed the room, took the wallet from Adam's hands, looked at the license, at the credit cards, all bearing the name Robert Callahan, at the key fob with the Callahan Developments logo. "Adam," she said, her voice unnaturally calm, "go to Grandma Sarah's house, right now." "But Mom..." "Now, sweetheart, please, I need you to go now." Something in her tone made Adam obey without further protest. He glanced between his mother and Robert, sensing the shift in the air, the sudden, terrible tension. Then he ran. The sound of his footsteps faded down the stairs. A door slammed. The truck engine started. Megan must have called her mother, because moments later, Robert heard another vehicle arrive, heard Sarah's voice, heard them drive away with Adam. And then there was silence. Megan stood in the center of the room, holding his wallet like it was a poisonous snake. When she finally looked at him, her eyes were empty. No anger yet, just shock. "Who are you?" Robert's voice came out as a whisper. "Megan, I can explain. Who are you?" "My name is Robert Callahan. I'm the CEO of Callahan Developments." She stared at him. Then, very slowly, she began to shake her head. No, that's not possible. Callahan Developments is the company that's been buying up properties around here. The company that tried to buy my farm 6 months ago. The company I told to go to hell. I know. You. The truth was dawning now, spreading across her face like a stain. "You came here to..." "What?" "To spy on me, to find some way to force me to sell. It wasn't supposed to be like this." "How was it supposed to be?" Her voice was rising now, finally breaking through the shock into fury. "You came here with a fake name, a fake story. You worked on my farm. You ate at my table. You met my son. You..." Her voice cracked. "You kissed me. All of it was a lie." "Not all of it. Megan, please, listen. Don't." She held up a hand, her whole body trembling. "Don't you dare tell me any of it was real. You're a liar. Everything about you is a lie. My feelings for you are real. Everything between us..." She laughed, a sound like breaking glass. "Everything between us. There is no us. There's you, a millionaire CEO playing dress-up as a farmhand. And there's me, the stupid woman who fell for it." "You're not stupid. I'm the one who..." "Get out! Megan, please! Get out!" Her voice was ice now, all the warmth he had grown to love frozen solid. "Get out of my sight. Get off my property. If I see you again, I'm calling the police. Let me explain. Let me fix this. Fix this!" She threw the wallet at him. It hit his chest, fell to the floor. You came here to destroy my life. You lied to my face for a week. You used my son to get close to me. How exactly do you fix that, Robert?" The way she said his real name, like it was poison in her mouth, destroyed something inside him. "I fell in love with you," he said desperately. "That wasn't part of the plan. That was real. The only real thing I've felt in years." "Love?" She stepped closer, her green eyes blazing. "You don't know what love is. Love is honesty. Love is showing up every day, even when it's hard. Love is—" Her voice broke. "Love is Daniel, working 2 jobs to save for Adam's future. Love is my grandmother, teaching me to care for land that would outlive us both. Love is Sarah, helping me rebuild after I thought my life was over. Love is not," she jabbed a finger at his chest, "some rich man playing poor so he can steal everything I have." Robert had no defense. Every word she said was true. "I'm sorry," he whispered. "I'm so sorry." "Sorry." She laughed again, that terrible broken sound. "You're sorry. Well, that fixes everything, doesn't it? I'll just tell Adam, my 7-year-old son who thought you were his friend, that Bobby was never real, that the man he trusted was just a costume some millionaire wore to trick his mother. I'm sure he'll understand. I'm sure that won't damage him at all." That hit harder than anything else. Adam, sweet, innocent Adam, who had asked him if he was honest, who had looked at him with complete trust. "I never meant to hurt him," Robert said. "But you did. You hurt both of us. And the worst part." Megan's voice dropped to barely above a whisper. "The absolute worst part is that I believed in you. I thought you were someone worth saving. I opened my heart to you. I let myself hope again. And it was all just a game to you." "It wasn't a game." "Megan, please." A knock on the doorframe interrupted him. Marcus Chen stood there, his face dark with fury. "Megan called me, said you needed an escort off the property." "Marcus, don't talk to me." Marcus's voice could have cut stone. "I knew something was wrong about you, should have trusted my instincts, should have thrown you out the first day." "I'll go," Robert said quietly. "I'll leave." "But Megan, please, just listen for 1 minute." "I gave you a week," Megan said. "A week of my trust, my time, my heart. You don't get another minute. You don't get anything more from me, not ever." She turned and walked out. Marcus waited, arms crossed, until Robert had gathered his few belongings, the costume he had bought to perpetrate this fraud, his real clothes, his real life, waited in a storage locker in town, waited to reclaim him. As Marcus walked him to the property line, he said only one thing: "I hope it was worth it. Whatever you thought you'd gain from this, I hope it was worth destroying a good woman and breaking a child's heart." It wasn't. Robert knew it wasn't. Nothing could be worth this. But by the time he reached his hidden car, by the time he shed the costume of Bobby Martinez and became Robert Callahan again, it was too late to undo any of it. He sat in the driver's seat, staring at the orchard in the distance, at the trees Megan's grandmother had planted, at the farmhouse where, just last night, he had kissed her under the stars, and believed, for one perfect moment, that he might deserve happiness. His phone rang. "Maxwell." "Robert, finally. Tell me you have good news." Robert closed his eyes, opened them, looked at his reflection in the rearview mirror, the man his father had made him. Cold, calculating, successful, alone. "She knows who I am. She threw me out." Silence. Then Maxwell's cold fury. "You failed. After all that planning, all that deception, you failed." "I didn't fail. I couldn't do it. Couldn't or wouldn't." Maxwell's voice dripped with contempt. "It doesn't matter. I'm filing the papers Monday morning. We'll take the property through the courts. It'll be messier than I wanted, but we'll still win. We always win, Robert. That's what Callahans do." "No." "Excuse me. I said no. Don't file the papers. Leave her alone." Maxwell laughed, genuinely amused. Leave her alone, after you've already destroyed any goodwill. After you've proven to her that we're willing to do anything to get what we want. Robert, whether you like it or not, the wheels are already in motion. You started this. I'm just going to finish it. I'll fight you. With what? I control the board. I control the company. You're CEO in name only, nephew. You have no power here. You never did. Your father saw to that before he died. He knew you were too soft to run this company alone. He made sure you'd always need me. The words landed like physical blows. All these years, Robert had thought he was in control, thought he had earned his position through competence and ruthlessness, but it had been an illusion. His father's final manipulation, reaching from beyond the grave. Then I quit, Robert said. No, you don't. You signed a contract, 5-year minimum as CEO, or you forfeit your inheritance. All of it. You'll have nothing, Robert. You'll be nobody. Just another failed businessman with a famous name and empty pockets. Robert thought about Bobby Martinez, the man he had pretended to be, the man who had nothing but his labor, his honesty, his chance at redemption. The man Megan had fallen for, even if he hadn't really existed. Then I'm nobody, Robert said. I quit. He ended the call before Maxwell could respond, sat there in the silence, trying to process what he had just done. He had walked away from billions, from his father's legacy, from everything he had spent his adult life building. And for what? Megan would never forgive him. The damage was done. He couldn't undo the betrayal, couldn't erase the lies. But maybe he could stop more damage from happening. Maybe he could find a way to fight Maxwell, to protect the orchard, even if Megan never forgave him. Maybe Bobby Martinez, who had never really existed, could teach Robert Callahan how to finally be someone worth being. The rest of Saturday passed in a blur of agony for Megan. Sarah had taken Adam to her house in town, giving Megan space to fall apart without her son seeing her shatter. And shatter she did, violently. Completely. She destroyed Bobby's room above the barn, threw his few remaining possessions into a pile in the driveway, burned them in a fire pit, watching the flames consume the flannel shirts and work boots that had been part of his costume. Marcus stayed with her, not speaking, just present, when she finally collapsed on the porch steps. Exhausted from fury and grief, he sat beside her. I'm such an idiot, she whispered. You're human. You trusted someone. That's not a weakness. It is when you have a child to protect. I brought a stranger into our lives, into our home. God, Marcus, Adam loved him. How do I tell my son that the man he looked up to was just a liar, using us? Marcus was quiet for a long moment. You tell him the truth, that sometimes people make terrible choices. That hurt is part of life, but also that his mother is strong enough to survive this, and so is he. I don't feel strong. I feel destroyed. Megan! Marcus turned to face her fully. That man was a coward and a fraud, but you built this farm from almost nothing. You raised an incredible kid alone. You've survived worse than this. You'll survive this too. Will I? She looked at him with eyes red from crying. Because right now it feels like I won't. Her phone rang. An unknown number. She almost didn't answer, but something made her pick up. Mrs. Turner? This is Eleanor Wu from the District Attorney's Office. I'm calling about an urgent matter regarding Callahan Developments and your property. Megan's blood ran cold. What about it? We've received information that suggests Callahan Developments plans to file eminent domain paperwork against your property on Monday. I wanted to give you advance warning. You'll need legal representation. Megan couldn't breathe. Eminent domain. They were going to take her farm, by force, through the courts, legally. How did you hear about this? We received an anonymous tip from someone inside the company, someone who felt this was wrong and wanted to give you a chance to fight back. After the call ended, Megan sat motionless, the phone still in her hand. This was it. This was Robert's, no, Callahan's, real plan all along. He hadn't been trying to convince her to sell. He had been gathering information to use against her in court, finding her vulnerabilities, setting her up for the kill. "What is it?" Marcus asked. She told him, watched his face darken with rage. "They can't do that. This isn't a public good project. It's a private resort. Apparently they can economic development, job creation. The law is on their side." Megan felt numb. "I can't fight them, Marcus. I can't afford the kind of lawyers I'd need. I'll lose everything." "No." Marcus stood, his jaw set. "No, you won't, because you're not fighting alone. We'll organize, get the community involved. Make this public. They want a battle? We'll give them one." That night, in her empty farmhouse, Megan stood at Adam's bedroom door, watching her son sleep. Sarah had brought him home after dinner, had stayed until Adam was in bed. He had asked about Bobby 3 times. Each time, Megan had evaded, promising they would talk tomorrow, when she would have to break her son's heart all over again, tell him that the man he trusted had been lying from the very beginning. She walked to her own bedroom, but couldn't bring herself to enter. The bed where, just nights ago, she had lain awake thinking about Robert's kiss. The room where she had allowed herself to hope, to dream, to believe in second chances. All of it poison now. All of it lies. She ended up on the porch, wrapped in a blanket, staring at the orchard. The trees stood silent in the moonlight, bearing witness to her pain. These trees her grandmother had planted, these trees that held generations of memory and love. They were going to take them, clear them, pave over them for a resort where rich people could vacation without ever touching real earth or doing real work, and there was nothing she could do to stop it. Or was there? Marcus's words echoed in her mind. Make this public, get the community involved, fight back. She pulled out her phone, started making calls. Grace Hartley first, then Emma Dawson, then every farmer, every small business owner, every person in this community who had ever faced down a corporation that thought money made them invincible. By midnight, she had 20 commitments. By dawn, she had 50. By the time Sunday morning arrived, a movement was forming. They were going to fight, not just for her farm, but for every farm, every small business, every family that had ever been told they didn't matter because they weren't profitable enough. And if they lost, if Callahan Developments took everything, at least she would go down swinging. At least Adam would see his mother stand up for what was right, even when the odds were impossible. At least Robert Callahan would know that she wasn't the fool he had taken her for. She was a warrior, and warriors don't surrender. They fight. Sunday morning, Robert woke in a hotel room that cost more per night than most people earned in a week. The luxury that once brought him satisfaction now felt obscene, meaningless. He stared at the ceiling, his mind replaying the moment Adam had found his wallet on an endless, torturous loop. The boy's innocent confusion. Megan's face, as understanding, dawned. The way she had looked at him, not with anger at first, but with something worse. Betrayal. Complete, soul-destroying betrayal. He rolled over, reached for his phone. 17 missed calls from Maxwell, 12 from members of the board, 3 from his executive assistant, asking if he was serious about resigning. He deleted them all. Instead, he opened his photos. The ones he had taken secretly over the past week, thinking he would delete them once the acquisition was complete. Megan laughing as she taught him to prune branches. Adam pointing at constellations, his face illuminated by wonder. The grandmother tree at sunset, apple blossoms glowing in golden light. He had meant to document vulnerabilities. Instead, he had documented beauty, love, everything worth protecting. His phone rang, not Maxwell this time. A number he didn't recognize. "Mr. Callahan, this is Jack Morrison. I'm an attorney here in town. Megan Turner has retained me to fight your eminent domain action." Robert sat up. She has legal representation. As of this morning, yes. And I'm calling to inform you that we will be fighting this publicly. Your company's abuse of eminent domain laws will be front-page news. Your deception, your personal deception, in infiltrating Mrs. Turner's property will be part of the public record. Every detail of what you did will be exposed. Good, Robert heard himself say. Silence on the other end. Then, I'm sorry. I said good. Expose it all. I deserve it. She deserves justice. Mr. Callahan, I don't understand. You're the CEO of Callahan Developments. Why would you? I'm not anymore. I resigned yesterday, but that doesn't mean I'm finished fighting. Robert stood, pacing the hotel room. Tell Megan. Tell her I'm sorry. Tell her I'm going to make this right, even if she never forgives me. How exactly do you plan to make this right? I'm still figuring that out. But you have my word. The eminent domain filing will not succeed. I'll stop it. After the call ended, Robert dressed quickly. He needed answers, needed to understand exactly what Maxwell had set in motion, while Robert was too busy falling in love to pay attention. He drove to the Callahan Developments headquarters, a gleaming glass tower that had once made him proud. Now it just looked cold, soulless, a monument to acquisition and profit with no room for humanity. Inside, people stared as he passed. Word of his confrontation with Maxwell had spread. Some faces held sympathy, most held judgment. Robert Callahan, the CEO who couldn't close a simple land deal. The weak link in the family dynasty. Let them judge. He deserved worse. He found Maxwell in the executive conference room, surrounded by lawyers and board members. When Robert walked in, the conversation stopped. Robert, Maxwell's smile was predatory. Changed your mind about resigning? No, I came to tell you in person. Drop the eminent domain filing. Leave Megan Turner alone. Laughter rippled through the room. Maxwell leaned back in his chair, studying Robert like one might study an interesting but ultimately inconsequential insect. And why would I do that? Because it's wrong. Because this isn't about public good or economic development. It's about profit, about building a resort that will make the company money while destroying a family's legacy. That's called business, Robert. Something you clearly never understood. One of the board members, Gerald Hawthorne, his father's oldest friend, spoke up. Robert, we've indulged your creative approach to this acquisition, but you've failed. The board has voted to proceed through legal channels. Maxwell has full authority to do whatever is necessary. Then I'll fight you in court. I'll testify against the company. I have documents, emails, recordings that prove this isn't legitimate public use. I'll destroy Callahan Developments if I have to. Maxwell's smile vanished. You would betray your own family? Your father's legacy? My father's legacy. Robert laughed bitterly. My father's legacy is teaching me that success means crushing anyone who stands in your way, that money matters more than people, that emotions are weakness and compassion is failure. Well, congratulations, Uncle Max. You and my father succeeded. You turned me into exactly the kind of monster who would deceive a woman and her child for a business deal. I hope you're proud. He turned to leave, but Maxwell's voice stopped him. If you fight us, you'll lose everything. Not just the company, your inheritance, your reputation, your name. You'll be finished, Robert, finished. Robert looked back at his uncle, at the board members, at the lawyers who would happily twist any law to serve their clients' interests, at the entire corporate machine his father had built. Good, he said quietly, because the person who deserves all of that, he died yesterday. When a 7-year-old boy looked at him with complete trust and asked if he was honest, I'm trying to become someone else now, someone who might actually deserve to look at himself in the mirror. He walked out before anyone could respond. In the elevator down, his hands shook, his heart pounded. He had just declared war on everything he had spent his adult life building. but for the first time in years, he felt like he might be on the right side of the battle. Monday morning arrived with the cold clarity of a judge's gavel. Megan stood in the town's small courthouse, surrounded by people she had known her entire life. Grace Hartley sat in the front row, rosary beads wrapped around her weathered hands. Marcus Chen stood at her left, a silent pillar of support. Emma Dawson on her right, her presence a reminder that this fight was bigger than just one farm. Adam sat with Sarah, confused but quiet. Megan had finally told him the truth that morning, that Bobby wasn't real, that the man they had trusted had been lying from the very beginning. Her son had cried, not dramatic, wailing tears, but quiet ones that had broken Megan's heart in ways she couldn't articulate. And then he had asked a question that had gutted her. Did he ever really like us, Mama? Or was all of it pretend? She hadn't known how to answer, because the truth was complicated. The man who had laughed with Adam, who had listened to stories about constellations, who had kissed her under the stars, had any of that been real? Or had it all been part of the performance? Now, watching Maxwell Sullivan enter the courtroom with a team of expensive lawyers, Megan felt her resolve harden. It didn't matter if any of Robert's feelings had been genuine. Actions mattered. Choices mattered. And Robert Callahan had made his choice when he came to her farm with a fake name and a fake story. Jack Morrison, her attorney, leaned over to whisper, "This is just the preliminary hearing. They'll present their case for eminent domain. We'll argue against it. The judge will decide if there's enough merit to proceed to trial. What are our chances?" Jack's expression was grim. Honestly, not great. The law gives corporations broad latitude for economic development claims, unless we can prove actual malicious intent or demonstrate that the public good argument is fraudulent. In other words, we're probably going to lose, not without a fight. The judge entered, the Honorable Patricia Chen, Marcus's aunt. Megan felt a small flicker of hope. Patricia Chen was known for her fairness, but also for her protective stance toward small businesses and family farms. Maxwell's lead attorney stood. His name was Harrison Burke, and everything about him screamed expensive, from his tailored suit to the Rolex on his wrist to the arrogant confidence in his voice. "Your Honor, Callahan Developments is filing for eminent domain under Section 1241 of the State Code, which allows for property acquisition when substantial public benefit can be demonstrated. Our planned resort will bring 250 jobs to this community, generate significant tax revenue, and boost tourism throughout the region. The economic impact study we've submitted demonstrates clear public benefit." Judge Chen reviewed the documents and the property in question. The Apple Blossom Orchard, 7 acres, currently operated as a small organic farm. While we respect Mrs. Turner's enterprise, the property's current use serves only a handful of people. Our resort will serve thousands. Jack stood. "Your Honor, this is precisely the kind of eminent domain abuse the law was meant to prevent. Callahan Developments isn't building a hospital or a school. They're building a luxury resort for wealthy clientele. The public benefit is minimal and speculative, while the harm to Mrs. Turner, who has operated this farm for 5 years and whose family has worked this land for 3 generations, is immediate and devastating. The law doesn't require the property owner to be happy about the sale," Burke countered. "It requires demonstrable public benefit, which we've provided." "You've provided projections and promises," Jack shot back, "not proof. And there's another issue Your Honor should consider. Robert Callahan, the CEO of Callahan Developments, personally infiltrated Mrs. Turner's property using a false identity. He worked on her farm for a week, gathering information while deceiving her about his true purpose. This demonstrates malicious intent and bad faith." Murmurs rippled through the courtroom. Judge Chen's eyebrows rose. "Is this true?" Burke shifted uncomfortably. "Mr. Callahan's actions, while unorthodox, don't affect the legality of the eminent domain filing. That filing is being pursued by Maxwell Sullivan, acting CFO, not by Mr. Callahan. Where is Mr. Callahan? The judge asked. I'd like to hear from the CEO himself. Mr. Callahan resigned from his position on Saturday. He's no longer with the company. More murmurs. Megan felt her chest tighten. Robert had resigned. Why? What did that mean? Judge Chen made notes on her legal pad. I'm going to allow this case to proceed to a full hearing in 2 weeks. However, I want full disclosure from both parties. Mrs. Turner, you'll need to provide complete financial records for the farm. Mr. Burke, your client will need to provide documentation proving Mr. Callahan's deception was not part of an orchestrated strategy to undermine Mrs. Turner's position. Your Honor, surely Mr. Callahan's personal actions are relevant if they demonstrate bad faith acquisition tactics. This court will not be party to corporate subterfuge. 2 weeks, full disclosure, next case. The gavel came down. It was over, or rather just beginning. Outside the courthouse, media had gathered. Word had spread about the case. The millionaire CEO who had pretended to be poor, the single mother fighting a corporate giant. It was the kind of David and Goliath story that newspapers loved. A reporter thrust a microphone toward Megan. Mrs. Turner, how do you feel about Robert Callahan's deception? I feel betrayed, Megan said simply. I trusted someone who was lying to me from the very beginning. But this isn't just about me. It's about every family farm, every small business that gets told they don't matter because a corporation wants their land. If they can do this to me, they can do it to anyone. Do you have a message for Mr. Callahan? Megan looked directly at the camera, imagined Robert somewhere, watching this, seeing the consequences of his actions. I hope it was worth it. Whatever you thought you'd gain by lying to me, by using my son, by manipulating your way into our lives, I hope it was worth destroying any chance you had at being a decent human being. That night, Megan's words went viral. Within hours, her story was everywhere. Local news, regional news, national news. Farm mother versus corporate giant became the narrative. Donations started pouring into a legal defense fund that Grace Hartley had organized without Megan's knowledge. And in a hotel room across town, Robert Callahan watched the interview 17 times, each viewing driving the knife of guilt deeper into his chest. She was right. It wasn't worth it. None of it was worth what he had lost. But maybe, just maybe, he could still find a way to make it right, even if she never forgave him, even if he lost everything in the process. He opened his laptop, began drafting an email to every member of the board, then to the district attorney, then to every journalist who had covered the story. If Maxwell wanted a war, Robert would give him one, but this time he would be fighting on the right side. This time he would be fighting for something that actually mattered. 2 weeks, 14 days, 336 hours. That's how long Megan had to prepare for the hearing that would determine whether she kept her farm or lost everything. She spent every moment that Adam was at school working with Jack Morrison, organizing documents, preparing testimony, gathering support. The community rallied. Grace organized prayer vigils. Marcus coordinated with other organic farmers to file amicus briefs supporting Megan's case. Emma started a social media campaign that spread like wildfire. #SaveAppleBlossom. But late at night, when Adam was asleep and the farmhouse was quiet, Megan allowed herself to feel the full weight of what she was facing. The legal battle, the possibility of losing, the knowledge that even if she won in court, her farm's reputation might be damaged beyond repair. And beneath all of that, the ache of betrayal that wouldn't fade. She tried not to think about Robert, tried not to remember the way he had looked at her when they kissed under the stars, tried not to hear Adam's voice asking, "Did he ever really like us?" But memories have a way of ambushing us when we're most vulnerable. And sometimes, late at night, she found herself wondering, had any of it been real? The conversations, the laughter, the connection she had felt, or had it all been manipulation, start to finish? A knock on the door interrupted her thoughts. Marcus, probably, coming to check on her like he did every evening. But when she opened the door, she found a courier holding a package. Megan Turner. Yes? Sign here, please. The package was heavy, official-looking. She carried it to the kitchen table, opened it with shaking hands. Inside was a file folder and a letter. She recognized the handwriting. Robert's. Her first instinct was to throw it in the fire unread. But something made her pause, made her open it. Megan, I know I have no right to contact you, no right to ask you to read this, but I need you to know the truth, not to excuse what I did. There is no excuse, but because you deserve to understand. The documents in this folder are every email, every text, every communication between me and Maxwell regarding your farm. They prove that the eminent domain filing is fraudulent, that Maxwell manufactured the economic development justification specifically to circumvent your refusal to sell. They prove malicious intent. I've sent copies to your attorney, to the district attorney, and to every major newspaper. Maxwell will likely destroy me for this. The board has already filed lawsuits against me. My reputation, my career, everything I've spent my adult life building will probably end because of what I'm doing. But I don't care. Because you were right. It wasn't worth it. None of it was worth what I did to you and Adam. I know you'll never forgive me. I know I destroyed any chance I had at being part of your life. But maybe I can still do one thing right. Maybe I can stop them from taking your farm. The man you knew as Bobby Martinez never existed. But the feelings he had for you, those were real, more real than anything I've felt in my entire life. I'm sorry for everything. Robert. Megan read the letter 3 times. Then she opened the folder. Page after page of evidence. Emails from Maxwell discussing how to manufacture public benefit narratives. Texts about finding legal loopholes. Communications with board members about neutralizing the Turner resistance. It was damning. Completely, utterly damning. Robert had given her the weapon to destroy Callahan developments. At the cost of destroying himself, she didn't know what to feel. Gratitude, anger, confusion, all of it at once. The phone rang. Jack Morrison. Megan, I just received a package from Robert Callahan. Tell me you got one too. I'm looking at it now. This changes everything. With this evidence, we can't lose. The judge will throw out the eminent domain filing. She might even open criminal investigations into Maxwell Sullivan and the board. Jack, why would he do this? Why would Robert give us this information? A long pause. Then, I don't know. Maybe guilt. Maybe he actually cares about you. Does it matter? Did it matter? Megan didn't know anymore. That night, unable to sleep, she stood in the orchard, the place where she had first met Bobby, where he had failed to fix her tractor and she had given him a chance anyway. Everyone deserves a second chance. That's what she had told Adam. That's what she had believed. But what about third chances? What about someone who had destroyed your trust, broken your heart, hurt your child, and then tried to make amends at great cost to themselves? She didn't have the answer, wasn't sure she ever would, but as she stood among the trees her grandmother had planted, Megan made a decision. She would use Robert's evidence. She would save her farm. She would protect her son and her community. And after that, after the legal battle was won and the dust settled, she would figure out whether forgiveness was possible, whether she could separate the man who had lied from the man who was trying, however imperfectly, to make things right, whether Bobby Martinez and Robert Callahan could somehow become the same person, someone flawed but fighting to be better. Someone who had made terrible mistakes but refused to let those mistakes define him forever. Someone who, despite everything, might actually deserve a second chance after all. The hearing was scheduled for Friday morning. By Wednesday, Megan's story had become national news. Camera crews from 3 major networks camped outside the courthouse. Reporters called her phone constantly. The hashtag #SaveAppleBlossom was trending across multiple platforms. Grace Hartley's modest fundraiser had exploded into something extraordinary. Donations came from all 50 states, farmers who had faced similar battles, families who had lost land to corporations, ordinary people who were tired of watching the powerful crush the powerless. Within a week, Megan had enough money to hire the best legal team in the state if she wanted to, but she stuck with Jack Morrison because he believed in her cause, not just the publicity. Wednesday afternoon, as she prepared documents at the kitchen table, Adam sat across from her, coloring. He had been quieter since learning the truth about Bobby, more withdrawn. The light in his eyes had dimmed. "Mama," he said suddenly, "if we lose the farm, where will we go?" Megan's heart cracked. "We're not going to lose the farm, sweetheart." "But what if we do?" She set down her pen, reached across the table to take his small hand. "Then we'll figure it out together. We'll find another place. We'll start over. We've done hard things before, haven't we?" When Daddy died, she confirmed softly. "And we survived that. We'll survive this too." "I miss Bobby," Adam whispered. "Even though he lied, even though he wasn't real, I still miss him." Megan blinked back tears. "I know, baby. I miss him too. The person we thought he was, anyway. Do you think he misses us?" "I don't know. Maybe." Adam was quiet for a moment, his crayon moving across the paper. Then, "Mama, do bad people ever become good people?" The question struck Megan like a physical blow. "What do you mean? Like in stories, the villain who becomes a hero. Does that happen in real life?" Megan thought about Robert's letter, about the evidence he had sent that could destroy everything he had built, about the man who had kissed her under the stars, and the man who had betrayed her trust, and whether they could somehow be the same person, capable of both terrible mistakes and genuine redemption. "I think," she said carefully, "that people are complicated. We all make mistakes, sometimes terrible ones. But if someone truly wants to change, if they're willing to do the hard work of becoming better, then yes. I think redemption is possible, even for Bobby, for Robert. I don't know yet, sweetheart. That's something Mama is still trying to figure out." That evening, Grace called with news. "Megan, dear, I've had an idea. What if we organized a festival at the orchard this Saturday? Show everyone what they're trying to destroy. Make it impossible for the judge to ignore what this place means to the community." "Grace, the hearing is Friday. We don't have time. We have 3 days, and we have 300 volunteers. Marcus is already coordinating the farmers. Emma is handling publicity. Sarah is organizing the church ladies for food. All you have to do is say yes." Megan thought about it. A festival would be risky. If it failed, if no one came, it would make them look desperate and foolish. But if it succeeded, "Yes," she said, "let's do it." By Thursday, the entire town was mobilizing. Signs went up. Apple Blossom Festival Saturday, free admission. Food trucks were recruited. Local musicians volunteered. News crews, already in town for the hearing, extended their stays, and in a hotel room on the edge of town, Robert Callahan watched it all unfold on television, his heart breaking with every image of Megan's face, every mention of what he had done to her. He had given her the evidence, had exposed Maxwell's corruption, had resigned from the company and forfeited his inheritance. He had done everything he could think of to make amends, but it wasn't enough, could never be enough. Because the damage he had caused wasn't something that could be fixed with documents and legal maneuvers. He had broken trust, hurt a child, shattered a woman's faith in humanity. How did you come back from that? His phone rang. A number he didn't recognize. He almost didn't answer. But something made him... Mr. Callahan, this is Grace Hartley. I believe you know who I am. Robert's breath caught. Yes, ma'am. I remember you from church. Good. Because I need to tell you something, and I need you to listen carefully. Are you listening? Yes, ma'am. What you did to Megan and that precious boy was wrong. Unforgivable, some would say. But I've lived 72 years on this earth, and I've learned something important. Forgiveness isn't about whether someone deserves it. It's about whether we're willing to offer it anyway. Do you understand? I think so. Megan is planning a festival. Saturday at the orchard. She's fighting for her farm, for her family, for everything that matters. And you need to be there. Mrs. Hartley, I didn't ask what you think. I told you what you need to do. You owe that girl a debt you can never fully repay, but you can start by showing up. Not as Robert Callahan, CEO, not as Bobby Martinez, the fake farmhand, but as yourself, whoever that is. Show up and work, serve, be humble. Don't expect forgiveness. Just do the next right thing. She doesn't want to see me. She made that very clear. What she wants and what she needs aren't always the same thing. That girl has been fighting alone for too long. Everyone needs witnesses to their struggle. Everyone needs someone to show up, even when it's hard. Especially when it's hard. After the call ended, Robert sat motionless, Grace's words echoing in his mind. Show up. Do the next right thing. Don't expect forgiveness. Could he do that? Could he face Megan's anger, the community's judgment, Adam's hurt? Could he serve without expectation of reward? He thought about Bobby Martinez, the man he had pretended to be. Bobby would have shown up. Bobby would have worked without complaint. Bobby would have put others first. Maybe it was time for Robert Callahan to learn from the fiction he had created. Friday morning arrived with the weight of Judgment Day. The courthouse was packed beyond capacity, with crowds spilling onto the steps outside. Media vans lined the street. The story had become bigger than anyone anticipated, a symbol of corporate greed versus community resilience. Megan sat at the plaintiff's table, Jack Morrison beside her, and felt the weight of everyone's hopes pressing down on her shoulders. Behind her, the entire community had shown up, Grace and Sarah in the front row, Marcus and Emma flanking them, farmers she had known her whole life, teachers who had taught her in elementary school, the pastor who had baptized Adam, all of them here to bear witness. Maxwell Sullivan entered with his legal team, and Megan felt a cold fury settle in her chest. This man had orchestrated everything, the deception, the manipulation, the attempt to steal her land through legal subterfuge, but he looked calm, confident, as if he had already won. Judge Chen called the court to order. We're here to determine whether Callahan Development's eminent domain filing has sufficient merit to proceed. Mr. Burke, you may present your case. Harrison Burke stood, smooth and polished as ever. Your Honor, since our last meeting, the situation has evolved. We've received allegations of impropriety regarding our client's acquisition strategy. We want to address those head-on. He presented documents, testimony, expert witnesses, all carefully crafted to distance Callahan Developments from Robert's actions. Robert Callahan, they argued, had acted alone, without company authorization. His deception was a personal vendetta, not corporate policy. The eminent domain filing, Burke insisted, remained legitimate regardless of one rogue executive's behavior. Jack stood when it was his turn. Your Honor, the defense would like to submit evidence that directly contradicts Mr. Burke's characterization. He held up the folder Robert had sent. These are internal communications from Maxwell Sullivan, acting CFO, to multiple board members and attorneys. They demonstrate a clear pattern of strategic deception designed to undermine Mrs. Turner's position. They show that Robert Callahan's infiltration of the property was not only known to company leadership, but encouraged. and they prove that the public benefit justification for this eminent domain filing was manufactured specifically to circumvent Mrs. Turner's refusal to sell. Burke's composure cracked. Your Honor, we have not been provided with these documents in discovery, because they were provided directly by Robert Callahan, who resigned from the company before your client could suppress them. Jack interrupted. He sent them to us, to the district attorney and to the media. They're already public record. Judge Chen held out her hand. Let me see them. The courtroom fell silent as she reviewed page after page of damning evidence. Emails discussing pressure tactics, texts about manufacturing legal justifications, communications explicitly referencing Robert's undercover operation as intelligence gathering. Finally, the judge looked up. Her expression was carved from stone. Mr. Burke, does your client wish to withdraw the eminent domain filing? Burke conferred with Maxwell in hushed, urgent tones. Then, no, Your Honor. We maintain that regardless of questionable communications, the public benefit is real and substantial. I see. Judge Chen set down the documents. In that case, I'm denying the eminent domain petition. Furthermore, I'm referring this case to the district attorney for investigation of fraud and abuse of legal process. This court will not be used as a tool for corporate harassment. The gavel came down like thunder. For a moment, no one moved. No one breathed. Then the courtroom erupted. Cheers, applause, tears of relief and joy. Megan sat frozen, unable to process what had just happened. They had won. She had won. The farm was safe. Jack grabbed her shoulders, grinning. We did it. They can't touch you now. Behind her, Sarah was crying. Marcus was laughing. Grace was praying, her weathered hands clasped together. Outside, the media descended like a swarm. Questions flew from every direction, but Megan barely heard them. She was looking for Adam, who had waited at Sarah's house during the hearing. She found him on the courthouse steps, Sarah holding his hand. When he saw her face, he knew, we won. We won, baby. The farm is ours. No one can take it away. Adam threw himself into her arms, and Megan held him tight, feeling tears stream down her face. Tears of relief, of gratitude, of overwhelming emotion she couldn't name. They had survived. Against impossible odds, they had survived. That night, as she tucked Adam into bed, he asked one more question. Mama, you said bad people can become good people if they work hard at it. Do you think Robert is working hard? Megan thought about the evidence he had sent, about the career he had destroyed to give her that evidence, about Grace's words. Everyone needs someone to show up, even when it's hard. I think he's trying, she said softly. I think he's trying very hard. If he came to the festival tomorrow, would you talk to him? I don't know, sweetheart. That's a big question. But you wouldn't send him away. You'd let him help. Megan stroked her son's hair, marveling at his capacity for forgiveness. Children understood grace in ways adults had forgotten. If he comes, she said slowly, I'll let him help. I can't promise more than that. Adam smiled, the first real smile she had seen from him in weeks. That's enough, Mama. That's a start. And maybe it was. Maybe forgiveness didn't have to come all at once. Maybe it could start with simply allowing someone to show up, to work, to prove through consistent action that change was possible. Maybe grace was something you grew into, one small choice at a time. Saturday dawned clear and perfect, as if the universe itself was blessing their triumph. By 9 in the morning, the orchard was transformed. Banners hung between trees. Booths lined the pathways. The scent of apple cider and fresh-baked pies filled the air. People came in droves. Families from 3 counties, supporters who had followed the story online, media crews documenting the celebration. By noon, over 1,000 people wandered the grounds. Megan stood at the center of it all, overwhelmed by gratitude and disbelief. Just yesterday, she had been fighting for her farm's survival. Today, she was celebrating its salvation with an entire community. Grace found her near the grandmother tree. "You did it, dear. You stood up to them and won." "We did it," Megan corrected. "All of us together. That's the truth of it, isn't it? We're stronger together than any of us could be alone." Grace paused, then said carefully, "There's someone here who wants to help. Didn't ask for recognition, didn't ask to see you, just asked where he could serve." Megan's heart stuttered. "Robert? He's in the kitchen tent, washing dishes. Been there since 6 this morning, and I don't think anyone but me even knows who he is." Megan didn't move, couldn't move. Part of her wanted to march over there and throw him out. Part of her wanted to thank him for the evidence that had saved her farm. Part of her wanted to demand answers, apologies, explanations. But mostly, she was just tired. Tired of anger, of pain, of carrying the weight of betrayal. "Let him work," she said finally. "If he wants to serve, let him serve." Throughout the afternoon, Megan caught glimpses of him, always in the background, always doing the humblest tasks, washing dishes, hauling trash, serving food to people who didn't recognize him or, if they did, gave him cold glares. He never complained, never asked for acknowledgement, just worked, quietly and consistently, the way Bobby Martinez had worked in the orchard that first week. Adam saw him before Megan could stop him. Her son had been helping at the children's activity booth when he looked up and saw the man he had known as Bobby carrying boxes of supplies. "Bobby!" Adam's voice carried across the crowd. Then, catching himself, "I mean, Robert." Robert froze, turned, saw Adam running toward him, and for a moment his carefully composed expression crumbled. Pain, hope, fear, all of it visible on his face. "Adam," he said softly. "Hi!" Megan arrived just as her son skidded to a stop in front of Robert. She was ready to intervene, to protect Adam from further hurt, but Adam surprised her. "You came back," the boy said simply. "I did. I wanted to help your mum, if she'll let me." "Did you mean it when you said you liked us, or was that all pretend?" Robert knelt down to Adam's level, and Megan saw tears in his eyes. "I meant it. Every word I said to you about stars and space and how special you are, all of that was real. The lies were about who I was, not about how I felt. And I'm so sorry I lied to you." Adam studied him seriously. Then, "Mama says you gave her the papers that helped us win, that you lost your job to help us. I did what I should have done from the beginning. It doesn't make up for what I did wrong, but I'm trying." That's what Mama said. "That you're trying?" Adam paused, then asked the question that mattered most to him. "Are you going to leave again?" Robert looked up at Megan, standing just behind her son. Their eyes met for the first time since the revelation. In his face, she saw everything: remorse, hope, love, resignation. "That's not up to me," Robert said quietly. "That's up to your mother." Megan felt the weight of the decision pressing on her. Everyone was watching. The community that had rallied around her, the media documenting her story, her son looking between them with hope in his eyes. She could send Robert away. She would be justified. He had lied, manipulated, broken trust. No one would blame her for refusing to forgive, but Grace's words echoed in her mind. Forgiveness isn't about whether someone deserves it. It's about whether we're willing to offer it anyway. "You can stay," she said. The words felt heavy, momentous. "You can work. You can help. But Robert, I need time. I need space. I need to figure out if trust is something that can be rebuilt." "I understand." His voice was rough with emotion. "Thank you for even giving me this chance." Adam looked up at his mother. Is Robert going to be part of our lives again?" "I don't know yet, sweetheart, but we're going to take it one day at a time." Okay, Mama. Throughout the rest of the festival, Robert worked tirelessly. Megan watched him from a distance, seeing the way he interacted with people. Humble, grateful for every task, never trying to justify or explain himself, just showing up, doing the work, proving through action that change was possible. By evening, when the last visitors had left and volunteers were cleaning up, Megan found herself standing beside him as they folded tablecloths in companionable silence. "Thank you," she said finally, "for the evidence, for saving the farm. It was the least I could do, and I mean that literally, the very least I could do to begin making amends. Grace called you, told you to come. She did, and I'm glad she did, even though I was terrified. Still am, honestly. Of what? Of you, of facing what I've done, of hoping for something I don't deserve." He paused. Then, "I know you need time. I know trust has to be earned, not given. But Megan, I need you to know that everything I felt as Bobby, every moment of connection, every conversation, that was real. The lies were about my circumstances, not my heart." Megan was quiet for a long moment. Then, "I loved Bobby, the man who taught Adam about stars, the man who listened to my dreams, the man who kissed me under the apple blossoms. But Bobby doesn't exist, and I don't know if I can love Robert Callahan. I don't even know who Robert Callahan is." "I'm figuring that out too," he admitted. "I've spent so many years being who my father wanted me to be that I lost track of who I actually am. But I'm trying to find him, the man I should have been all along." "Then find him," Megan said softly. "Figure out who Robert Callahan is when he's not trying to prove anything to anyone, when he's just himself. And maybe, if you do that, we can figure out if there's a way forward." It wasn't forgiveness. Not yet. But it was possibility. And possibility was enough for now. 2 weeks later, Marcus cornered Megan at the farmer's market with an unexpected proposition. "I've been thinking about the festival, about how powerful it was, seeing everyone come together like that. What if we did it again, made it an annual thing? Marcus, organizing that festival nearly killed me. Hear me out. What if we established a permanent trust, something that would protect not just your farm, but all the small farms in this region, create a legal structure that makes us harder to target, gives us collective bargaining power, educational programs about sustainable farming. The festival could be our annual fundraiser." The idea took root in Megan's mind, a trust, not just for her, but for everyone, a way to turn her near loss into protection for the entire community. "We'd need lawyers, funding, a board of directors." "Already talked to Jack Morrison. He's willing to do the legal work pro bono. And with all the publicity from your case, we've had dozens of farmers reach out, asking how they can get involved." "But who would fund it?" Marcus smiled. "Actually, someone already volunteered, anonymously. A substantial donation that would cover operations for the first 3 years while we build sustainable funding." Megan didn't need to ask who. She knew. That evening, she called the number Robert had left with Grace. He answered on the first ring, as if he had been waiting. "Marcus told me about your donation," she said without preamble. "It's the right thing to do. I have resources I don't need. You have a cause that matters. This is what you're doing with your inheritance, the money your father left you. Maxwell froze most of my assets in litigation, but I had personal savings. And yes, this is what I'm doing with it. Trying to turn something that represented greed and acquisition into something that protects and preserves." Megan was quiet, processing. Then, "I want you on the board." "What?" "The trust. We're establishing a board of directors, local farmers, community leaders, legal advisors. I want you on it." "Megan, I don't think that's—" "Not as Robert Callahan, CEO. As Robert Callahan, person who understands corporate law and can help us build something that can't be destroyed. Who knows how companies like yours used to think, so we can defend against them. Are you sure? The community won't want... Let me worry about the community. The question is, will you do it? Will you show up to meetings? Do the work? Help us build something that lasts? A long pause. Then, yes. If you'll have me, yes. Over the following months, the Apple Blossom Trust took shape. Marcus as president, Megan as vice president, Grace as community liaison, Emma as education coordinator, and Robert as legal advisor, bringing his insider knowledge of corporate tactics to help small farms defend themselves. At first, his presence at meetings was awkward, tense. People remembered what he had done. But slowly, through consistent action and humble service, he earned grudging respect. He never asked for recognition, never tried to justify his past actions, just showed up, did the work, and proved through patience that change was possible. And Megan watched, observed, noted how he interacted with others, how he handled criticism, how he navigated the difficult space between guilt and growth. 3 months after the festival, Adam asked if Robert could come to his science fair. He helped me understand orbital mechanics. I want to show him my project. Megan agreed, and Robert came. Stood in the back of the elementary school gym, looking at Adam's carefully crafted solar system model, and his eyes filled with tears. "You did this yourself?" he asked Adam, "with Mama's help. But I remembered what you taught me about gravity and how planets stay in orbit. See," he pointed to his diagram, "the sun's gravity pulls them in, but their momentum pushes them forward, so they end up going in circles forever." "That's exactly right." Robert's voice was thick with emotion. "You're brilliant, Adam. Just brilliant." After the fair, as they walked to their cars, Adam slipped his hand into Robert's. A simple gesture that made the man freeze, his breath catching. "You can come to more things," Adam said matter-of-factly. "If you want. Mama says you're part of our lives now, not like before, but still part of them." Robert looked at Megan, who nodded confirmation. "If you want to be involved in Adam's life, I won't stop you. But it has to be real this time. Consistent, honest. You can't disappear again." "I won't. I promise." It was the first promise she had allowed herself to believe. 6 months after the festival, spring arrived with a riot of apple blossoms. The orchard, which had nearly been destroyed, now stood as a symbol of resilience. The trust was thriving, protecting 15 farms across 3 counties, and Megan was healing. She and Robert weren't together, weren't dating. But they had become something else, partners in building something bigger than either of them. Friends, maybe. Or perhaps people learning to trust again, slowly and carefully. He came to the farm once a week now, always asking permission, always respecting boundaries. Sometimes he worked alongside Marcus, repairing fences or pruning trees. Sometimes he helped Adam with homework. Sometimes he and Megan sat on the porch after Adam was asleep, talking about the trust's progress or simply enjoying comfortable silence. It was during one of these evenings that Sarah found them. Megan's mother studied them for a long moment, then said, "I need to tell you something, Robert." He straightened, wary. Sarah had been the most skeptical of his redemption attempts. "When you first came here pretending to be Bobby, I didn't trust you. Mothers know. Something felt off. I told Megan to be careful, but she didn't listen. She wanted to believe in you." "I know. I'm sorry." Sarah held up a hand. "I'm not finished. What you did was wrong. Unforgivable, many would say. But these past 6 months, I've watched you, really watched you, and I've seen something rare. Someone who doesn't just say they're sorry, but who proves it, day after day, week after week, without expectation of reward." She paused. Then, My daughter deserves someone who will show up, who will do the hard work, who will love her son as his own. I don't know if you're that person yet, Robert, but I see you trying to become him, and that counts for something." After Sarah left, Megan and Robert sat in silence, both processing her words. Finally, Megan spoke. "Do you remember the night of the dinner when we kissed? I remember everything about that night. I told you I was falling in love with Bobby, and you said there was something you needed to tell me. What was it? What were you going to confess?" Robert looked at her, moonlight catching in his eyes. "The truth, all of it. I was going to tell you my real name, my real reason for being there. I was going to confess everything and beg for forgiveness, knowing I'd probably lose you, but unable to carry the lie any longer. Why didn't you? Adam needed water, and you said to tell you tomorrow. But more than that, I was a coward. I wanted one more night of happiness before destroying everything." Megan absorbed this. "Then what would have happened if you had told me? If the truth had come out on your terms, instead of through Adam finding your wallet?" "I don't know. Maybe you would have kicked me out anyway. Maybe the betrayal would have hurt less, or maybe worse. But at least it would have been honest. My choice, not forced by discovery. Grace tells me," Megan said slowly, "that how we get to redemption matters less than whether we complete the journey. That God cares about the destination, not the path. Do you believe that?" "I'm trying to." She turned to face him fully. "Robert, I need to know something, and I need you to be completely honest with me. Anything. When you kissed me that night, when you said you loved me, was any of that real, or was it all part of the plan?" He didn't answer immediately. When he did, his voice was raw with emotion. "There was no plan for love, Megan. The plan was cold, calculated manipulation. But somewhere in that first week, I don't even know when exactly, something changed. Maybe it was Adam's innocent questions about the stars. Maybe it was watching you work with such dedication and grace. Maybe it was the way you laughed despite everything you'd been through. But I fell in love with you, completely, terrifyingly in love. And every moment after that was torture, because I knew I was destroying something beautiful before I even fully had it. So when you kissed me, I was kissing the woman I loved, knowing I was going to lose her. That kiss wasn't manipulation. It was goodbye to the only happiness I'd felt in years." Megan felt tears slip down her cheeks. "I want to believe you. I know you do. And I know I haven't earned that belief yet. But I will. However long it takes, I will prove to you that what I felt, what I feel, is real." She reached out, took his hand. Just that, no kiss, no grand gesture, just two hands together under the stars. "1 year," she said. "Give me 1 year of consistent presence, of showing up, of being the man you say you want to become, and then we'll see if trust can be rebuilt." 1 year, he agreed. "I'll be here. Every day you'll let me, proving that I'm worth a second chance." As they sat together in the orchard her grandmother had planted, Megan felt something shift inside her. Not forgiveness yet, not love, but hope. The fragile, precious hope that broken things could be mended, that mistakes, however terrible, didn't have to define us forever, that people really could change if they wanted it badly enough. And maybe, just maybe, Bobby Martinez and Robert Callahan weren't two different people after all. Maybe they were the same person, seen from different angles. The man Robert had pretended to be, and the man he was finally brave enough to become. Only time would tell if that man was worthy of her heart, but for the first time since the betrayal, Megan believed it was possible. And possibility was enough to start with. Possibility was always enough. 1 year later, the second annual Apple Blossom Festival attracted 3 times as many visitors as the first. The trust had grown to protect 32 farms. National media ran features about the community that beat corporate greed. And the orchard, The small organic farm that almost ceased to exist had become a symbol of hope. Megan stood at the main stage, preparing to give the opening address, and looked out at the sea of faces. Grace and Sarah in the front row, beaming with pride, Marcus coordinating volunteers with military precision, Emma leading educational workshops, Adam helping younger children at the stargazing booth, his telescope, his father's telescope, mounted prominently, and Robert, no longer hiding in the kitchen, no longer serving in the shadows, but standing with the other board members, having earned his place through a year of consistent, humble service. They still weren't together, not officially, but something had grown between them over the past year, something deeper than romance, more solid than the initial attraction. They had become partners, friends, people who knew each other's worst moments and chose to see each other anyway. "Ready?" Marcus asked, handing her the microphone. Megan nodded, stepped up to the podium. "Good morning, everyone. Thank you for being here, for supporting our community, for believing that small farms matter. A year ago, I almost lost everything. This orchard, which my grandmother built and my mother protected, and I was trying to honor, it almost disappeared. Not because I failed, not because the land wasn't productive, but because someone with more money decided they wanted it more than I needed it." The crowd was silent, listening. "But this community said no. You said no. And together, we built something stronger than any one farm. The Apple Blossom Trust now protects dozens of families. It provides education, legal support, and collective bargaining power. It proves that when we stand together, we're stronger than any corporation." Applause erupted. Megan waited for it to quiet, then continued, "I want to thank everyone who made this possible. Jack Morrison, who fought for justice. Grace Hartley, who organized an army of volunteers. Marcus Chen, who leads our board with wisdom. Emma Dawson, who makes sure we never stop teaching the next generation." She paused. Then, "And I want to thank someone else. Someone whose role in this story is complicated, who made terrible mistakes that could have destroyed everything, but who, when given the choice between his career and doing what was right, chose right. Who has spent the past year proving that redemption is possible." She met Robert's eyes across the crowd, saw surprise there and gratitude, and something that might have been love. Robert Callahan provided the evidence that saved us. He sacrificed his career, his reputation, and his inheritance to protect this community. He could have stayed away after that, could have disappeared, but instead he showed up, month after month, doing the hard, humble work of earning trust. And I want to publicly acknowledge that, because change, real change, deserves to be recognized. The applause was more scattered this time. Some people clapped enthusiastically, others remained silent. But it was enough. Acknowledgement, if not forgiveness. After her speech, the festival sprang to life. Music, laughter, children running between booths. Megan moved through it all, greeting people, thanking volunteers, soaking in the joy of community. She found Robert later, near the grandmother tree, talking to Adam about something that had her son gesturing excitedly. "Mama," Adam called when he saw her. "Robert says that for my birthday he can take us to the observatory, the real one, with the huge telescope. Can we go? Please?" Megan looked at Robert, saw the careful hope in his expression. "If your mum says yes, absolutely." "Yes," Megan said, "we can go." Adam cheered, then ran off to tell his grandmother the news, leaving Megan and Robert alone under the tree where they had first met, where Bobby Martinez had failed to fix her tractor, and she had given him a chance anyway. "Walk with me," Robert asked. They walked in silence through the orchard, past booths and crowds, until they reached the far edge, where the noise faded and only the rustle of leaves remained. "Megan, I need to tell you something." Her heart stuttered. "Okay." "This year has been the hardest of my life, harder than my father's death, harder than walking away from the company, because every day I had to face what I'd done, had to see the consequences. Had to work, knowing I might never fully earn forgiveness. Robert, let me finish, please. He took a breath. But it's also been the most meaningful year of my life, because for the first time, I'm building something that matters, not for profit, not for legacy, but because it's right, because it helps people, because it honors what this land, what this community, what you represent. He turned to face her fully. You asked for 1 year. I've given you 1 year. And I'll give you another, and another, for as long as you need. But I need you to know. I'm in love with you, Megan, not with the idea of you, not with some fantasy. With you, the real, complicated, beautiful, strong woman standing in front of me. Megan felt her breath catch. I know you are. And I understand if that's not enough, if what I did is something you can never get past. I'll accept that. I'll still be here, still work with the trust, still be part of Adam's life if you'll let me, but I needed to tell you, needed you to know that this, what I feel, is real. She was quiet for a long moment, gathering her thoughts, her courage. Then, do you know what I realized this year, while watching you show up, again and again? I realized that Bobby Martinez wasn't a complete fiction. He was who you could have been if life had been different. If your father had been kinder, if success hadn't hardened you, Bobby was the best version of you, buried under years of armor. Megan. And this year, I've watched Robert Callahan become Bobby Martinez. Or rather, I've watched you integrate them. The man who understands business and the man who values people. The man who was raised for ruthlessness and the man who chooses kindness. You're not two different people anymore. You're just you. Flawed and trying and real. She stepped closer. So yes, Robert, I forgive you, not because you deserve it, though you've certainly worked for it, but because holding on to anger was poisoning me, because my son deserves to see that people can change, and because... She reached up, touched his face gently. Because I love you too. Not Bobby. You, Robert Callahan. The man who sacrificed everything to do the right thing. The man who showed up for a year without guarantee of reward. The man my son trusts and my mother approves of, and who makes me believe in second chances. Robert's eyes filled with tears. Are you sure? No, she admitted. I'm terrified, but I'm sure enough to try, if you're willing. Instead of answering with words, he kissed her, and it was different from that first kiss under the stars. Less desperate, more certain. A kiss that said not goodbye to happiness, but hello to a future they would build together. When they broke apart, they were both crying, both laughing, both overwhelmed by the impossible grace of redemption. I have something to ask you, Robert said, but I need to ask Adam first. Is that okay? Ask Adam what? You'll see. They found her son at the stargazing booth, showing a group of younger children how to focus the telescope. When Adam saw them approach, saw their joined hands, their matching smiles, his face lit up. Does this mean what I think it means? Adam, Robert said, kneeling down. Can I ask you something important? Sure. I love your mum, and I love you. And I want to be part of your family, not replace your dad. No one could ever replace him, but be someone who shows up, who keeps his promises, who's there for you both. Would that be okay with you? Adam looked at his mother. Are you happy, Mama? I am, sweetheart. Then yes. Adam threw his arms around Robert's neck. Yes, you can be part of our family. But I get to be best man at the wedding, right? Robert laughed, holding the boy tight. Absolutely. Wait, Megan said, her voice shaking with laughter and tears. Did my 7-year-old son just accept your proposal before you actually proposed? Yes, maybe. Robert stood, pulled a small box from his pocket. But I should probably still ask you properly. Megan Turner, I came to this orchard to take everything from you. Instead, you gave me everything I never knew I needed. A home, a purpose, a reason to be better. Will you marry me? She looked at the ring, simple, beautiful, exactly her style. Looked at Robert, no longer the cold CEO or the fake farmhand, but just himself, flawed, trying, real. Looked at Adam, bouncing with excitement, looked at the orchard around them, the trees her grandmother had planted, still standing, still bearing fruit. Yes, she said, yes, I'll marry you. The celebration that followed was spontaneous and joyful. Words spread through the festival like wildfire. Grace wept openly. Sarah hugged Robert so hard he couldn't breathe. Marcus clapped him on the back with a force that nearly knocked him over. And as the sun set over the apple blossom orchard, casting everything in gold and amber light, Megan stood with Robert and Adam, watching apple blossoms fall like snow around them. You know what I realized, she said to Robert. You came here to buy my land, but in the end, it was the land that bought you. He smiled. Best purchase I never made. What does that mean, Mama? Adam asked. It means, Megan said, pulling both of them close, that home isn't something you own. It's something that owns you. Something you protect and serve and become part of. Your dad understood that. Now Robert does too. Adam looked up at Robert. So you're home now? Robert looked at Megan, at Adam, at the orchard stretching around them, at the community that had given him a second chance, at the life he had almost destroyed but had been allowed to save. Yes, he said, his voice thick with emotion. I'm home, and under the apple trees, under the same stars that Adam loved to study, under the watchful presence of all those who had come before them, a new family took root. Not perfect, not without scars, but real and growing and strong enough to weather whatever storms might come, because that's what love does. It takes broken things and makes them whole. It takes mistakes and transforms them into lessons. It takes endings and reveals them as beginnings. It plants seeds in the ashes and waits patiently for something beautiful to grow. And in the apple blossom orchard, as apple blossoms fell like blessings from heaven, something beautiful was already blooming. I hope you enjoyed today's story. Subscribe to the channel so you don't miss more stories like this. Leave a like and comment below what you thought of the story. See you in the next video.